Wrong about the chrome has not gone to the chrome shop yet, which is probably kind of a good thing since you cash flowed a whole bunch for the engine. And thank you very much for the payment. At any rate, so we'll wait and send this. We'll probably send this in right away because it takes 2 or 3 months anyhow. But it hasn't gone yet. So, bow flagpole. We really can't do the. Well, we might be able to. This was not the bow light that was used for the witch's hat. The witch's hat was pre-war, and so post-war, this is going to have a flagpole with a similar contour to this one. All right, it's going to go in there at an angle, and it's going to have a cross section. This is larger, but the cross section is going to look very similar to that for the bow. And of course, it'll be a bit shorter. I might even have one as an example to show. I'll look for it and include it in another video if I do. So let's see. So going over the boat right here, the transom will be bright work. We're going to have white cabin topping on the entire surface up here. We're going to have, of course, we're going to use the gray paint that you guys specified. I took down the numbers. We will. So one thing that's about a wooden boat is the planks will shrink and swell with humidity. So I just want to prepare you for this. So we can use a filler in here, and we can make this perfectly smooth, and it'll be perfectly smooth until the humidity changes. If the humidity dries up, if you like in the wintertime, the air becomes very arid, and if the humidity dries up, then the plank seam will appear again. If it gets damp, moist humidity, the plank seam will close. Another method we can do is, and probably will do, is to put a spline in here made of the same plank material, which is the cedar. So we may just put a spline in there, glue a spline in to tighten up these plank seams. The other side, here's a nice wide plank seam here. The other side, actually, at first glance, and then I'm getting ready to do second glance, at first glance, the other side seemed quite a bit tighter. No, not so. Tight up here, fairly tight up here, but as you can see, it's quite open here. But bottom line is, without removing the sides and or cold molding with plywood over the sides, these are going to shrink and swell, and I just wanted to prep you for that. There's one that has been done that somebody obviously, or it looks to me like they cold molded it, and so it has cold molded me is making your plywood, making plywood out of multiple individual layers of veneer, or layers of plywood. I have some very thin plywood, 1/16 inch plywood. I'll show you over here in the rack. So I have in the rack here, we have 3/4 inch plywood. This is a 10 by 5 sheet of 3/4 inch. We have some 3/8, we have some 1/2 inch, we have some 1/4 inch. And I'm just showing you all those so that you can get an idea of the scale here on my phone. And then we have 1/16 inch thick plywood that, 1/8 inch thick plywood that is, there's actually 3 plies in this, and it's marine plywood. So we would actually use marine plywood, cut it in strips, and lay a strip diagonally this way and the next strip diagonally this way, fare it all in, paint it, nothing moves. When humidity changes, of course, nothing moves. So as opposed to with this, even just day-to-day humidity it'll move some. And I'll refer you to a guy that has one of these. He was the president of the Chris Craft Antique Classic Boat, or Chris Craft Boat Club. Might still be the president, I'm not sure. But and he can tell you about the experience with his. So, but I did want to warn you about that. Manage the expectations. There is a way to keep that from happening. It's very expensive. Yeah. So, so that's first thought about that. And let's see. I can work off these pictures right here, and I can crawl in the boat if I need to. But so we're going to be a dove gray hull. This is the hull color that we're going to have. It's actually got a different name other than dove gray. I have that name listed in my notes, but that's going to be the hull color. Here's what your stern flagpole will look like in place. And we elected to go bright on that instead of painting it white. And I should have one here with some notes on it. I guess I need to do another video because I left the one with the notes in it. It must be in my notebook. So I'll just go ahead and cover what we discussed. So we're going to do a Nautilus flooring on the floor. It's going to be a simulated plank. It's gray. It's a light gray in color. On the sides, we're going to do ceiling boards, and we're going to go ahead and make them out of plywood. We might make the top ones out of mahogany, out of a solid piece instead of a ply piece, just because that edge might, and it will show, that edge will show, and we don't want it to be, we don't want to show that, we don't want people to be able to tell it's plywood by looking at the edge of the top one. So we'll use a solid wood up there. Okay, on the console is going to be painted white. In the area where the gauges are, that area will be bright work, going to be varnished. Inside the cabin, we're going to do a Hirshoff, similar to a Hirshoff. We're going to paint everything white. And where the ribs are, and where the ribs on the walls, the ribs in the ceiling, the deck beams, and the ribs on the walls, we're going to trim those out in bright mahogany. So all this will be white, and then the upholstery is going to be, I've got those notes, I'll videotape those. This is going to be claret red, and this area here will be claret red. We may or may not do a boot stripe. Oh, and this will be claret red. And we may or may not do a boot stripe. If we do a boot stripe, it'll be the claret red. And we may only do the claret red boot stripe back here where we have the varnish and the copper bronze bottom paint. It'll be copper bronze on the entire bottom. So, and the reason being is copper bronze and the varnish color, without a stripe, breaking that up, will look very similar, and you really won't have much of a contrast. So if you hit that, I would hit that with a red boot stripe, and make this area just pop instead of it. Yeah, so I think it'll make it pop. We're going to do a photograph of this, and we're going to copy this and have this made for us. Have another one made at a sign shop, and plus it'll be kept as a file. So if you want to supply a copy of that to the previous owners, or if you want to stay with the name, that you'll be able to. Let's see. I think I'll stop here, and then I'll pick it back up with the pictures that we marked up in our meeting.